Welcome to the Trusted Place. My name is Lola Love, and I will be talking about my ED recovery story. And this is also the first video, so welcome to the channel. I've been wanting to do this since forever, well, since a long time, because I know how helpful it can be to relate to other people's stories within ED recovery. ED is eating disorder recovery. To feel less alone. The journey can be very alone and lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely. I've also learned to be really embracing solitude a lot, and I love spending time by myself now. But yeah, because of this whole journey and spending so much time by myself, I've learned so many things, not just about an eating disorder. I've learned so many things also just about life and spirituality and myself. So you can expect like ED recovery videos because I have a lot to share. But I also want to make videos about things I've learned that resonate for other life things and life in general as well. I think now is just the time to get going and to start. If it will help someone, that's really the purpose of it. And I also just want to spread more awareness around this topic. So, okay, so I'm not gonna make it too much longer. Oh, the intro, because I have a lot to share. And I gotta just set boundaries. First, a few disclaimers. I'm not gonna be sharing any numbers about my weight or about calories or something. It's totally unnecessary and triggering, so I won't be doing any of that. I'll try to do my best every time to not mention something triggering. However, I am going to be talking about an eating disorder, so everyone finds other things triggering. But if you feel like it's triggering for you, then please just watch out yourself and click the video away. And people with eating disorders usually don't choose to have that. And yeah, in my case, as I will be explaining as well, I didn't even realize I was sick. It's a phenomenon that can definitely happen, and a lot of people experience this. So crazy hindsight. It's like, how did you not know? But it's this, see an ED as like a demon that just takes over someone. When someone is sick, usually they're not being themselves at all. Don't compare the timeline with yourself. Everyone has a different journey. For me, it started when I was 16. I remember looking back at the pictures now, the way I felt, and I was not feeling that good around a lot of things in my life, or maybe not so many things in my life, but certain things that mattered a lot to me. So friendships, I just felt, even though I knew so many people and I was hanging out with a lot of people, I just didn't feel that connected on the friendship part. And I was having a lot of fights with my mum too, which just made home not a good place for me. My grandfather also got sick. He got diagnosed with lung cancer, and he was like my best friend, you know. He, even though he was 70 years old, he was still so young at heart, and just the best man ever out there. And so that was really devastating, because I saw him at least once a week. I see that I was becoming more focused on food and starting to cook some new recipes, which is totally fine and fun as well, like to just cook and bake and stuff. But it became something I was slowly focusing on more, because the other things in my life that I could focus on were just not as nice and not as reliable, and I was just dealing with more family stuff. I went on holiday with my mom to Portugal and her boyfriend at the time. I found that really hard, and I can just see now also the pictures of me in Portugal on the beach and stuff. I know exactly how I felt about my body then, literally hating my body for the way it looked. In the end, it's body image and body dysmorphia. It's, in the end, it doesn't really matter what size you are. It's more about your mindset around it and the things, other things in your life that influence that. I was just really becoming more food focused, and I mean, Instagram, just social media, diet culture, telling us all these different things. And when you are growing into an adult, it's a bit confusing. It's like, oh, do I have to be super like nutrition focused when I grow up? I guess everyone around me is doing it. So I can definitely see how my body dysmorphia just went up so much in that summer, and confused about what I should eat and what I shouldn't. And I was just losing touch with my body. I was losing that connection when actually by nature I'm a very intuitive person. In August or something, I was just prepping so much, like meal prepping so much more, cooking, trying out recipes, and it was just a thing I could kind of rely on and spend my time on, and exercising as well, because yeah, I was just feeling less comfortable. It was kind of fun, and I had no idea it could turn into a bad thing. And even though I had 2 friends of mine who were struggling with an eating disorder, I supported them in that, I had no idea that I was actually, the things I was doing could lead into that, because it just still felt fun. And like on Instagram I found those recipes like a recipe with less this and less that, and everything restrictive is just not good, but I had no idea. And yeah, if it's on Instagram and people glamorize it, then I just thought, okay. I even started a recipe Instagram account and just tried more, and looking back, week by week the portions became slightly smaller, just slightly smaller every time. So many people talk about control, and a lot of those people have never experienced an eating disorder, and it's just not always that much about control. But I guess there was a bit of like control of like, oh, let's do a little bit less of this now in the recipe. I was losing a bit of weight, but I don't think I really saw, I mean, I didn't really see that then, and I was just still not really happy with my body. But again, I'm saying this with the body and stuff, but in the end, it's like not really about the body. It just it became a thing because other things in my life were not as great. So I started to cope and focus more on your body. Maybe you can relate to this. If you haven't had an eating disorder, if you feel a bit shitty one day or a bit stressed one day, that you maybe notice that you have a bad body image day too because of that. So that's kind of that's kind of how it went. But then it was a longer bad body image day. It was like a bad body image week, and then new habits started to form and stuff like that. Yeah, it never really started about changing my body. It was more underlying things that made me focus on that, and that's the case for a lot of people. So I just want to really again put that out there. Sometimes people would tell me like, but you looked so good, and oh, but you were so pretty, like why did you feel the need to change? And I was like, I don't know, like it's a mental illness. I didn't really want to do this. So within a few months, at the end of 2021, I lost so much weight. It's just quite scary even to look at. I was not myself anymore. I can see in pictures I was so tired. I was in complete survival mode. In some cases, people with restrictive eating disorders actually become like really tired and depleted and they can't do anything. And some people, like me, of course my body was tired, but I came into like a kind of survival mode. So if you think back at the time when we were living in tribes and we had to hunt, if you were like deprived from food, I would actually be great in this scenario, because my body would have put me into survival mode, be like, okay, even though we are lacking so much nourishment, so much nutrition, I'm gonna put this like fake energy into my body now so I can hunt and I can gather food. Even though I was very, very underweight, and underweight is being under your own set point weight, not only BMI. I was so under my own healthy weight. My body was just like, we need this like fake energy to keep going and to keep living and find food. I just didn't see it. I sometimes got a glimpse of myself of like, wow, I'm super thin and I absolutely hate this. I felt so insecure, so ashamed. I felt totally ashamed towards friends and family. For the rest, I was completely taken over by the eating disorder, by this demon. Fights happened with family. It was super lonely because the eating disorder just it basically wants to kill you, and you just shut out everything else in your life, and it's just this huge obsession about food and exercising, and yeah, it's just out of your control actually. The ED also makes you lie to everyone. I was just lying to my mom about exercising and about food and stuff, and of course I didn't want to, but you're just not there anymore. It's the ED living in the brain, and it's such a crazy psychological, like, mental illness. So it makes you believe you are doing well and you have nothing to worry about. Why would a monster shine a light on itself? By the time I was still on birth control, but I'm 100% sure I would have not had my period anyway. So I had like a fake period with my birth control. Your body can't function properly in this state. Eventually in the new year, in 2022, in January, my mom, I mean, she was worried for such a long time already, but she really said, like, you are going to the GP. And the first time I rejected, I was like, I'm not going to the GP. And it was just terrifying. I was like, it's not needed, da da da. And eventually I did go. And yeah, they were like, you are really sick. And I think that's where I was a bit more conscious again of like, oh shit, I am sick and something is really wrong. It was so weird. It's like sometimes something would make me kind of conscious again and show me, girl, you're fucking sick, go get help. But then the ED just took over again and was like, no, you're fine, we keep going, and you have no control over it. But by then I did start screenshotting things from ED recovery accounts, so I was kind of aware. But obviously, like, reading about these things was just not enough for me to start recovering, especially not by myself. In the end, I had a doctor's appointment, and I actually have a journal entry about this, which 11th of March 2022, Tuesday the 8th of March was the day. I had a doctor's appointment with Dr. De Waage with both my parents. He told them about the process and answered their questions. But probably the most changing thing what happened is him telling me I can't exercise/sport anymore. The last 3/4 of the year I've been working out a lot and actually enjoying it. So suddenly letting go is weird. All is a bit challenging. I feel like a small child which has to be taken care of. Everything is under a microscope. If I want to walk longer because it's sunny, I suddenly can't. Or it may seem like I use that as a compensation. If I prefer to eat more of one food and less of the other, it might seem like I'm restricting myself from that food. Of course I understand, but it's not always the case. So that's pretty overwhelming nowadays. But I'm also enjoying life more. I've seen lots of friends grab drinks and takeaway food or ordered food. It has all been great. I want to get my normal life back. So I will. I must. Life is not about looking good. Life is precious. Why restrict yourself from joy, from amazing memories, from smiles, from life? So show up for yourself, eat when you want, eat what you crave, just please yourself, make the most of life. 15th of March, I think, I ended up in the hospital. I had a doctor's appointment and we checked my heart rate. I won't say numbers again, I just don't want people, I know numbers can just be something very triggering, so even I'm not gonna say my heart rate, but it was so low that my heart was literally, it was super dangerous, and I wasn't even being measured whilst I was sleeping, because when you sleep your heart rate is lower, but it was during the day, and the doctor was like, whoa, his alarm bells went off. He was like, if this is during the day. This is like super dangerous for if you're sleeping. Then it might be too low and you might just die in your sleep. Okay, I'm laughing now, but it's not funny, but I'm, you know. So he said, we need to monitor you during the night. You have to stay in the hospital because you can't have a lower heart rate than what you have now. Like, that's impossible. Then your heart might stop, then you might die. So that was a big shock. Suddenly I was like, whoa, I have to stay in the hospital for a night. So me and my mom, we went home, we packed my stuff, and we had to be back again 2 hours later. I got a room 11 in unqiue. Love them, thank you very much for saving my life. And Dr. Wagen, thank you very much. I'm not sure if you will ever watch this. So when I got into the hospital, I was actually participating very well from day one. And I actually filmed not everything, but a lot of things with my GoPro because I knew that I wanted to do something with this. They put me on a meal plan and I had just full bed rest. Like they would wake me up at 7 in the morning. I would get a blood test right away. Freaking hated blood tests. All day and all night I had like these things monitoring my heart, because that's the whole, not the whole reason, but like that's the main reason I was there, to see how my heart rate was during the night. And there was like a beeping machine, and if it would beep crazy, then it would mean that my heart rate was under a certain amount that would just be life-threatening. And this often happened in the night. One night in hospital became 3 weeks, I believe. So that was also a complete shock for me, to just suddenly stop going to school. Because I was still going to school. It's crazy. I passed my exams this year, even though I missed a lot of school. Yeah, it would wake me up in the night because it was just, my heart rate was so low. If I wanted to go to the toilet, there was like a toilet seat. If I wanted to shower, they would put me in a wheelchair and I had to sit in the shower. Like, I was not allowed to move at all. Like, at all. So I also didn't go outside, which I absolutely hated. Eventually my mom pushed to get me outside because she was like, sorry guys, but this is my daughter. She does need some fresh air and sun on her face. So she got me outside in a wheelchair. This whole meal plan thing became a new thing that the ED wanted control over. And before that I wasn't counting calories at all. But actually since the hospital, I started doing that because it was like, oh, okay, they gave me a minimum amount of calories, and that the ED turns it into a maximum, so it never wanted to go over it. And it wanted to be exactly right. At first it was a minimum or a maximum. I could also risk getting the refeeding syndrome because I was at such a low weight and suddenly had to eat more again. After I think a few days even already, you can start eating more again. I was really like participating, and I just wanted to get out of the hospital because it was so lonely and just, yeah, it was not nice. So the 1st of April I got out of hospital. I was still severely underweight, but my heart rate was a bit higher. Yeah, we just had to continue recovery at home, which is difficult because then your parents really have to take care of you, and you also have to really build trust with them that you're like, yes, I am gonna participate, I'm not gonna be difficult. It's more like you gotta just make sure that the ED doesn't go crazy and take over again to be difficult in the situation. I was also doing some sessions with like a psychologist. I don't know if it was very helpful. Maybe it was, but it wasn't something that would really help me in the long run, I guess. I kept going at home. It was kind of fun because suddenly I could like eat. I had the permission to eat all these things again, and even though it most of the time was scary, I knew I had to do it because I saw how sick I was. I also went to Albufeira with some friends, and I was still severely underweight, but I was at a high enough weight that me and the doctor agreed on, and I was only going for a week, so it would be again after that like pushing with recovery, and I was doing my best on that holiday too. Then eventually I went to Berlin in July 2022, and I was still underweight. Yeah, me and the doctor again set like kind of a weight that I was allowed to go to Berlin, and I really wanted to go. It was only planned to be 2 months, and now I'm still here after 3.5 years. But yeah, during the time I lost my granddad, And yeah, I went to continue recovery in Berlin. It was difficult, but I was still in this phase where it was still a bit fun to just go to restaurants. No, I had like permission, even though of course you always have permission to eat because you're human. But I just felt like I had more permission. Berlin was like an escape for me to get out of Amsterdam and to start over, to meet. I knew no one in Berlin, but I was not scared for it. And I was 18 and I was just like, I want to go to Berlin. I'm like a clean slate, you know, no one knows me there yet. So people are not going to judge me on the way I look, of how thin I am, because it might just be the way I am. And I don't know anyone, so no one knows about my past. Just a way to rediscover myself and like rebuild and get on with recovery, but just feel less pressured and stressed by the people around me. I kept extending my stay because I really enjoyed Berlin, and I was just not ready to return back to the city where that whole eating disorder started, because I was so ashamed for it even starting. And I found a new job at a film production company. I worked full-time. Yeah, overall I think I was doing pretty good. I was doing my best, and recovering on your own is really fucking hard, and I still didn't have so much knowledge about it. Like now I have so much more knowledge, and I know how things could have gone differently back then, but in the end it's such a complex psychological disorder, and it's so individual. No one can really tell you like how your recovery journey is gonna go. 2023, I started to lose weight again. I can see now in my camera roll. I was not feeling that good with my job, being around the people I was working with, and I think just seeing my weight gain, I was noticing that I was gaining weight, and I didn't know how to deal with weight gain and bad body image. Suddenly thinking like, okay, I am getting less and less permission now. When I look back now, I can see how I was becoming a bit more food focused, in a way of like controlling it, making smaller portions, and just being less allowing in that. Yeah, so eventually I quit my job because I was also restricting a bit more. I think in general I was just, yeah, again, depriving myself, so less energy, less happy. If you're depriving yourself, you're not going to be happy, you know, you're not giving yourself enough energy to smile. And I went on a solo trip to Thailand, which was absolutely amazing, and I did so much there, but I was again in this survival mode. I had a lot of fake energy. It was exciting to try foods there, however a lot of the time it was just looking at the foods and obsessing about them. So I got back and I had a few more months in Berlin. Yeah, I definitely lost weight again, and I was just not in a good place. I didn't feel happy, and also not with friends. I would say in general, I was just in a very long quasi-recovery. How I define quasi-recovery, I think many others define it like this, but I knew I needed to recover, and I was like trying to, but I was just stuck in this way of like not being at my worst, but also definitely not being near my best, like not near that at all. I was sometimes taking steps towards recovery, like increasing portions, but yet the ED was so present that there was like no way I could get over that in that moment. It was just so strong in there. So I was really long in this like quasi, knowing you're sick, not feeling happy, knowing you basically have to eat to get better, but just not being able to. I think that's really where the element comes in. It's like a switch that has to be switched, but you don't have the hands for it. It felt completely impossible, and I did so many things. Like, I started journaling a lot. I was writing down affirmations a lot and doing all these things. I even once putting a bead on a string every time I managed to eat enough during the day, even though there was literally never enough food. Like in recovery, there's never really enough food. You just need so much food. There's not now like, okay, you've had enough, you know, your body will say that. It's not for you to decide. It was just like still this maximum. If you reach that amount, then you gain a bead. And if I did a bit more than that amount, I would gain a special bead. So I was starting that, but eventually it was like, this is not helping. Very sweet of you, but it's just not helping. So I turned it into a little bracelet, and it's a very special bracelet for me now. I mean, it just means a lot to me, and it just shows me how far I got as well. So at the end of May, I think he like invited me over to Amsterdam, and he was like, you're gonna stay here, because he just saw something was really wrong again. It was just not a good, I was just not in a good place again. So in the meantime, my phone died, and I recorded like half an hour more. Let's try again. My dad invited me back to Amsterdam. It turned out to be like a couple of months, May to September. I think that was honestly the most depressing time. I built a life here in Berlin. I made friends here in Berlin, and suddenly I was like back in Amsterdam where this whole trauma was born, and I was scared to see others and old friends because I was still so ashamed. I was at home recovering. I had my dad deciding what I was gonna eat and when. So it felt so unsafe. He's my dad, it is safe, but when you're taken over by a mental illness, it felt so unsafe. You just need like also other support of people that understand what you're really going through, and probably only just people who have been through it themselves. Like that's the best. So yeah, I think that was probably my most depressing time. And I just remember one day I was walking through the fields and I was just crying for like 2 hours straight, absolutely bawling my eyes out, and I became quite suicidal. I didn't make any attempts. I definitely wanted to escape my life and really thought like my life is over, and I want it to be over. And I just remember walking through the fields, crying and crying and crying, contemplating like, how can I die without going through the process of dying? I know it's not funny, but yeah. There was a van, like a post van, and this guy drops me a note, and it was like, you're not alone, or I'm here to support, and then he put his Instagram there. And even though I never reached out because I felt super ashamed, it was like a sign from the universe that I was not alone and that I had to keep going because I just felt so alone. And suddenly this random guy just drops me this note whilst I'm walking there. I felt so ashamed for the way I was probably looking like as a complete disaster during the day in summer with the sun out. Like that's just also a little reminder. If you see someone struggling, most of the time it's a good thing to maybe support them or show them that you are there for them, even though you don't know them. And it can completely change someone's life. I went back to Berlin in September. I went to film school and I was still in quasi. I was trying my best. Again, I was better than how I came, like to Amsterdam. I got a bit better, but I still just didn't know how to cope, what other coping tools to use, and how to live like a normal life again. I didn't know how to fully recover because of course you have to eat, but you also got to implement like ways to deal with those things and deal with body changes, and I just didn't have that. Didn't really know how to, and felt pretty alone in that. I produced so many films, and although it was like a great experience, I was producing like 8 films at a time. And people ask me like, how do you do that? 8 films at a time? Like even 2 at a time is already crazy. And I was also doing like first AD work and catering and stuff. I was going mad. I was like going mad, and everyone wanted to work with me because I was doing so much and feeling so responsible for the film. I was again in this survival mode, but still I was feeling shit and controlling my food a lot and just making sure I wasn't eating too much, which is again not possible. Then in 2024 I went on a solo trip to Sri Lanka. That was great. 2024 June, it was my birthday and I was turning 20 and I was like, I don't want to bring this into my 20s, you know? It's gotta stop. So I was already like allowing a bit more, but I remember this one night in July, I was looking at the moon. It was a summer night. I was sitting at my favorite spot at the water tower and I was looking at the moon and I felt so spiritually connected. I was like, I'm gonna call my mom tomorrow. I'm gonna tell her how I am and be very open, ask her to not emotionally react too much and listen, that I can share and be open and create a safe space with her. Because our relationship just went down because of the eating disorder, and I also just needed financial support because I wanted to join a recovery program. The next morning I called her and that was literally the call that changed my life. It really changed my life. From then on, we called every single day. It was difficult because still it's my mum and also for her to hear all the things I'm struggling with. But at least we were talking. At least I was doing my best and now committing because I was updating her. So I really felt like, okay, this is really a commitment. Now, like one big thing I've learned from recovery, shame for anyone. Shame can be such a hard thing to deal with. It can really block someone's healing, not only in ED recovery, but in general for people that struggle with something. If you feel shameful, like deeply shameful for something, it's so hard to heal from it. So really working through shame, and maybe I'll make another video about it, but really working through shame is so essential. It really helped to be open to my mom. Sometimes I would really feel embarrassed for even like struggling with telling her that I feared food or with my body or this and that, but it was true and it's a mental illness, and I just shared it all with her and she could listen and it really helped. She had no idea, like she could not relate at all, but she just listened. Thank you, mama. A few weeks later I started this recovery program. It wasn't that good, to be honest. I guess the act of me like committing to a program was, I think, the most useful thing I got out of it, because I was just committing to recovering. The thing that helped me the most was calling with my mom. Extreme hunger completely kicked in. With that night hunger, I just needed to stay home a lot, eat all day, cancel my plans with friends, and eat through the whole night. I would stay up until 7 in the morning with a book and snacks and just eating, and my body just prioritized food over sleep. It's crazy how that happens, but it was like that for a few months. So now I'm deciding whether I should go back to the kitchen again, even though I'm like almost getting sick from how full I am. Like I'm so full. I was just eating jars of Nutella and Lotus Biscoff and peanut butter and cookies and whatever all in one sitting. But I don't want to put like normal and extreme categorize it, but it was for sure 20 times more than how I go through my day now. And it was completely necessary, but so uncomfortable, brought up so many emotions. Going through recovery, I was becoming alive again, so all my feelings and sensations and things and my thoughts were coming back. So I remember just absolutely ruminating about, oh my god, I have a monkey mind, I'm thinking so much and I'm feeling so much, I'm hearing so much. I would literally walk the streets with Bose noise cancelling headphones because every sound was just too much. Sometimes even my own footsteps at home was just too much to hear. Like, can you imagine? It was crazy. I would just get so overwhelmed and stressed out and cry and almost scream from myself, hearing myself cook or hearing someone else in the room talk. Because of that, my friendships were still hard to maintain because I could hardly go and see friends because either I was eating at home or I would just get overwhelmed by stuff. So that was just really difficult. And again, I spent so much time alone, but I did really improve the relationship with myself. Therefore, I've created so much solitude, and I love being with myself now. And it's something amazing that I've learned in recovery, and it's like the foundation for the rest of my life. So I had sleepless nights. I would stay awake until 7 in the morning. I could only read rom-coms as well and not watch anything. But reading anything else than rom-coms would be too overwhelming and too thrilling. Because I was already experiencing heart palpitations from eating so much food. I often thought, oh my god, I'm gonna get a heart attack. And sweating so much from all the food. Eventually, when I could go to bed because I was really sick of eating, I would sweat so much. So my sleep was just not on. Those months were crazy. I was just doing so much research of like diagnosing myself. I might be on the autism spectrum and HSP and this and that. And it's all, of course, it's not like a bad thing, any of that, but things have definitely like dimmed down. I do think I'm a highly sensitive person, but I don't get as over aroused and overwhelmed as quickly as then. And I guess you also get used to it. I just had to get used to it. One very popular one, I was doing a lot of research and stressing about the possibility of developing BED, binge eating disorder. Again, I'm not like a medical professional and but I see this happening a lot with other people. And when you come from a restrictive eating disorder and you then have a lot of binges, but not the typical one that is related to binge eating disorder, like a lot of symptoms are they're pretty much the same. But it's so necessary that you go through those binges because you need all that food again, and you need to gain weight and nutritionally rehabilitate. And you are not just recovered when you only gain weight. Your whole body needs to fix things inside. It needs to learn how to be safe again. Your brain needs energy. Things just have to, your body just has to take over, and you've got to trust, and you have to really trust, work on trust with your body and the process. Yeah, I would do so much research and write about it almost every day of like, gosh, am I developing binge eating disorder? Like, what if this has gone the whole other way? What am I to do? I know I can't restrict, so what should I do? And online there's a lot of bad stuff, and they tell you to restrict, and like, please don't listen to this stuff because restriction is never good. It was very confusing and stressful. Hindsight, the only thing I could do is just keep going and allowing food, and eventually after a lot of food, a lot of food, it will dim down. But that's for your body to decide. So yeah, food was on my mind all the time, and for the 24th of December I got my first period back again, and that was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was a Christmas gift. I was so happy. I was at a Christmas dinner with one friend I knew, and the rest I didn't know. I was absolutely ravenous also that Christmas. I mean, I still kind of had extreme hunger, but also because of the hormonal changes, I was even more hungry. I did really well there, I would say, because I didn't know these people, and I ate the amount that everyone ate. So like, I ate for 10 people, and they actually made comments about how hungry I was. Like, some people would just joke about it, and lucky for me, I didn't really care, and I just kept eating. But I mean, you should never make comments about how much someone is eating, or like any food comments or body comments, I think are totally unnecessary, because you have no idea. It's totally unnecessary. You have no idea what someone is going through, and if they struggle with that, or if they struggle with that after you say it. So 2025, I got on a holiday with my mom to Sumatra and to Thailand. I had an injury on my foot. Doesn't really have anything to do with recovery. I mean, that had to recover too. Also, during that holiday, my exhaustion from the past months of not sleeping, and then that injury and traveling, like all these stress factors piled up made it really hard for me to be a nice person and to really enjoy. We did have a great time, and I can definitely look back at amazing memories, but it was still very hard, and it was also difficult to be with someone who is not as hungry as you, my mom. After that, I did my last film producing project, because honestly I had to let that go. It was just so stressful, and recovery is a full-time job. I could not imagine myself working next to recovery. It was insane. I needed to stay home and eat. I could not wrap my head around other responsibilities. So luckily I had the freedom to do that, even though I did also feel a lot of pressure from hustle culture to be productive, but really had to let that go and work through that as well. I was very aware still of my appearance, like very body focused. I think it only really has dimmed down a few months ago. Over the past few months, I was still so like focused on my body and how I was fluctuating with my weight, and was probably not very accurate as well how I viewed it. And I started dancing, and it was like Afro dance hall style, so shaking the hips and releasing energy there. That also, I think, helped me in some ways to heal in recovery and to finally show myself again and be like proud in my body for the way I look, even though I should not focus on that too much because I was hiding for so long. And then suddenly I did these shows on stage dancing almost naked. It was just like, look at me, you know? And I felt it brought me so much confidence because I was just hiding for so long, and finally I could be out there again and be myself and like express. One thing I also want to mention, how blank it can feel after/during recovery. I literally felt like I was a newborn. At the age of 20, I felt I was a newborn. I suddenly had time. I suddenly had like more interest in thinking about other things and like being busy with other things. So I had to really reintroduce creative hobbies. I felt like I had to relearn how to make true friendships, and later on dating and cooking in a like normal way. I felt like I had to relearn everything, reestablish myself, and like create a new identity. So it was still kind of hard to like fully allow sometimes, like literally everything, because I was also still having some doubts about whether it was like binge eating disorder or something else, or like too much emotional eating, because emotional eating is completely okay and fine and a normal thing, but eventually, you know, I was making myself like sick of it. Hindsight, I can see, girl, your body needed it, but in that moment you're just so overwhelmed, because eventually you're like, okay, can recovery now just be done? Can I just be done now and live my life? But your body needs time because you had a long time of restricting yourself. So I turned 21. All in all, like life was really much better and more colorful and more fun, and still struggling and pushing through, but it was just getting so much better. And yeah, I started working at an ice cream shop, which was great because I still wanted to eat a lot, and then I could have free ice cream. Sorry. I was still very like struggling with being so highly sensitive, because still sounds would make me so overwhelmed. My body was still feeling so unsafe and physically stressed in situations. Also becoming very physically stressed from eating so much, but also needing it. So I also needed to get vaccinations because I was going on a holiday to Malawi. I realized that those kind of things like vaccinations, travel, hormonal changes completely whacked out my system. My body would just go into kind of an extreme hunger again. It's just your body suddenly feeling a bit unsafe again and asking for more safety, which then comes through food. Yeah, hindsight, again, I totally understand it and it should be allowed, but it's just in the moment it gets really uncomfortable. Yeah, I found ways to like cope with it more. 3rd of September, I got my period again, because the 24th of December, I got my period, but that was just once, and then I had like half a year break again. But yeah, on 3rd of December, I had my period again, and from then on it stayed every month. quite irregular, but at least it's there. Yeah, I'm really proud of my body for that, and I notice when these hormonal changes come. Then in November I went to Malawi. I traveled there. That was a complete different routine, and the climate there is different, the food is different, all of it. It took me 30 hours to travel there. So again, that was a whole blast on my body and my system. So I was absolutely ravenous. And then post Malawi and Christmas, I feel like I lost a bit of weight in Malawi because of just the heat and stuff. So I think my body just really needed to get a lot of food back again around Christmas time, and that felt quite uncomfortable again because I saw again then body changes, and I think my body was again physically stressed. So that already puts you in a kind of emotion, right? If your body is feeling physically stressed, to then go through like weight changes again was even harder because I was already in that like zone. But I'm happy I did, and it's worth it. And I was still really struggling with like night hunger and it also being a pleasurable thing. Now again, after a while of fully allowing it to be there and gaining a bit more weight back and just, I guess, gaining trust and safety with your body, it has dimmed down again. It's basically also just not judging it so much. Many nights I went to bed without brushing my teeth, went to bed very late again, but it's just what had to happen. Recovery is uncomfortable in so many ways, but it's so worth it. My life is a trillion times better. Even though recovery is freaking hard, it's really worth it, and you learn so much from it that is valuable for the rest of your life. That's why I wanted to make this channel, because I want to share the knowledge I have gained. You don't even have to have had an eating disorder, and I can still probably share a lot of knowledge that is valuable to you. So I want to do that. Stick around. So yeah, mid-Jan, only like half a month ago, I got a crazy wave of hunger again and completely freaked me out. I got a lot of anxiety. I feel like, because I'm so connected to my body now and intuitive, I know that there were certain things in my environment regarding people that I also had to change. And I feel like some things were like, I felt like claustrophobic in my chest with that, releasing that and fully allowing again the food. I saw that I changed weight again. I think my focus on my body has completely shifted, because I just know that it doesn't make any sense to focus so much on my body. It just doesn't make sense because I don't want to, but I also can't do stuff to try and control the way our body looks. It's not gonna end up well. I've been through that already. I know it doesn't end well. And I know that if you do, it will also probably bring body dysmorphia and you won't be satisfied anyway. So I might as well just learn how to accept my body. You don't have to love your body, but you can at least accept her for the way she shows up, or he or they show up. Your body should be able to look the way it wants to and live the life you want, and your body will follow. Do the things you enjoy, have fun, eat the things you want, move the way you want, and your body will follow. I feel more chill in just every aspect. To be honest, I also feel less sensitive. I know I'm a highly sensitive person, also just regarding emotions and intuition and feeling and energies, but sounds affect me less, and things and my phone, there was like a period I could not have my phone around. Like even my phone being in the same room would just stress me out. I wanted to break my phone. It was like that for like half a year, I swear. I'm just turning struggles into strength. I am so excited to share more things with you. I want people to feel less alone in their journey. I hope people don't compare too much, but I know that when I was going through things, I watch people on YouTube, and it's just reassuring to hear that you're not alone in the journey. And by the way, I say all in recovery, but yeah, it was really hard. I think I explained this before, but it was really hard to fully really let go of. I really try my best to allow everything, but because I was also doubting binge eating and stuff, it was sometimes you just got to be so honest with yourself in recovery. You got to be so brutally honest with yourself. Like, okay, how am I behaving, and what actions and steps am I taking, and what can I improve? But also to make sure that you feel safe enough. I really hope you can find support. If you need tips, reach out, but I will make another video with some tips and let some people know. I do have a Spotify, I have like 5 Spotify playlists with good podcasts, and they're all different playlists. So one is called ED Recovery Struggles, one is ED Recovery Body Positivity. Yeah, if you're not struggling yourself with an ED, I hope it brought you some more awareness and knowledge necessary for more people to know about it, to release like shame around it, and know that people don't choose to be sick and it's really hard and they need love and support. And that also, if someone is really going through recovery, that they might cancel on you with their plans, you know, they might have to just stay at home and eat, and that's also okay. I am done talking. I am so done talking. See you in the next video. My name is Lola Love. This is The Trusted Place. I hope to see you next time. I wish you a wonderful week. It will be an amazing week for you. I know that for sure. Bye. Oh.